never stood still on the touchline. The centre-backs are claiming offside. 3 goals down to nil at half-time. And the striker sent another shot wide. Supporters only sing when they're winning and boo us after every defeat. The chairman launders foreign dirty money, and no one's seen or heard of him for 10 weeks. Getting sacked in the morning. You're getting sacked in the morning. You're defeated and you're playing at home. You're getting sacked in the morning. Getting sacked in the morning. You'll be gone without warning. All the best players have gone out on loan. He's getting sacked in the morning.
Hello everyone and welcome to Sacked in the Morning, the football podcast that's coming to you live via satellite. Yeah. My name is Richard. I am your host each and every week on this fanciful, whimsical trail through football and
you've lost the football already with that.
Yeah, sorry. We talk about football, innit? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Man stuff. This week I am joined by Tom. Let's go you first.
Hi.
Hello, Tom. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me again.
You're always welcome. And I'm also joined by Thelan. Hello, Thelan.
Hello, mate. How are we doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
Not bad. Not bad.
Didn't sound very
pleasure to be here as always.
Oh, well, there we go. You picked it up right at the end. Cool. So, yeah, Thelan, you want to kick us off with your topic that you'd like to speak about this week?
Well, seeing as Man City are very, very close to potentially winning the treble, and that would mean that both teams in Manchester would have won trebles, I wanted to open a bit of a debate. Which of the two teams, if City do win the treble, would be considered the better of the two, the greatest Premier League team? Because obviously the United team that won that treble in '99 is held up against most other teams that are probably slightly better than them that have won the Premier League before and afterwards. But because of the achievements of winning that treble, first time it was done, they're always held on that kind of pedestal. But if City do it, is that United team still considered the greatest Premier League side?
No.
One.
Thank you very much for that topic, Thelan. That was very interesting.
The Guardiola factor, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if you just look at the team, the amount they score, the pundits will just go nuts, won't they? They'll just all lose their minds.
Okay, so to caveat that then, is Man City considered more of now a one-man team, considering that the reason why they're in this position to potentially get themselves over the line is because they signed Erling Haaland in the summer, who is now obviously the record scorer?
That's a good debate.
They've already got good players, though.
But they've never had someone that can just pound the goals in like that. Even when Aguero was at his peak, he didn't hit numbers like Haaland has, so...
I mean, Man City still winning the league before Haaland showed up, aren't they?
Yeah, Man United was still winning the league before Dwight York showed up.
Yeah, but he was the final piece of the jigsaw, I guess. Yeah, I guess.
Exactly.
I guess the final piece of the jigsaw is probably more way to put it.
No, I think the final piece of the jigsaw was Teddy Sheringham, but, it's just,
The final piece that took a few years to settle in.
Oh, yeah, Sheringham.
1 year, thank you, 1 year. He joined... And then we won the League Cup in '98 and United won nothing. And then everyone was like, see, Sheringham, you shouldn't have left, you idiot. You would have won something. And then the next year he won the treble.
Because that then goes into the other part of my debate. Obviously, the season before United won the treble, they didn't win anything. One of those few years, where they were a kind of on the balance line, where the City team is like record number of points in the Premier League.
Who won the league, Tom?
Failed in Europe.
Won the double,
and Guardiola has that ability to Guardiola, as we have seen numerous times before. But traditionally, City won the League Cup like 4 seasons in a row. They've won the Premier League, 4 out of 6 or whatever it is now. Whereas the United side didn't win anything, then bounced back to pretty much win everything.
See, this is why I think that this topic is personally, I think this topic is moot because Guardiola's still going to Guardiola at some point before the end of the season, and it's probably going to be in the Champions League, and I don't think they're going to win the Champions League. But I mean, yeah, that's my personal opinion. I don't know that for sure, obviously, but history tends to dictate. Well, you know, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. You know,
we're talking if they do win it. That's what we're talking about, right?
Which is why I'm taking part in the debate. But if you ask me my honest opinion, I don't think they're going to win the treble anyway. But I'm happy to take part in this debate still. But yes, in my opinion, if City win the treble, they will be considered the greatest treble winning team in English history. Because just simply for the fact that A, pundits love them already. B, they've got, you know, a super sexy Spanish man, not bloody Jack Scott in charge, have they? They play attractive football, don't they? I don't know what this accent is. It's not Scottish.
It's definitely no. I was wondering where you were going with that for a minute, and it just never really come back round.
Scottish man, Scottish Spain.
So you say Man City are more synonymous with sexy football than that Man United?
Yeah, Man City are more synonymous with sexy football. Yeah, no, but honestly, that is the view, isn't it? That they play better football than any team in Premier League history ever has. You know, like I mean, they'll probably say, you know, the only team that's ever been better than this Man City team is that Barcelona team, and who was in charge of that Barcelona team? That was weird, wasn't it? You know,
still didn't go a whole season without losing a game.
No. Which is why then this comes up to the question of, okay, who's the greatest team that's ever won the Premier League? You know, because you could say that United 99 team, you could say the Arsenal Invincibles, you can say that Chelsea team that, like, what was it, like 101 points or something like that they won the league with.
Mourinho's second. Was that his second season there?
Second season, Mourinho, I think, was it? They just blew the league away, didn't they? So, you know, Leicester coming out of, you know, like from being relegated the season before to come and win it, you know, I mean that they're not considered one of the greats, but for me, that's that's a hell of a story. Yeah, but you know,
it's probably the greatest story in Premier League history, or English football history in general. Just not just including the Premier League, which realistically still only has not been around for really that long. Leicester winning the league is the greatest story in English football history. I would go as far as to say that. In terms of, like you say, like the 4 games towards the end of the previous season, they were in the bottom 3. They were cut adrift. To stay up and then go and win it is improbable.
Yeah, but to say English football history, that's a lot of history that you're just dismissing completely there. I mean...
Recent history.
Pardon?
Recent history.
Recent history, yeah, absolutely, 100%. Premier League history, yeah, 100%. But English football history, I mean, do you know what happened in 1906? I mean...
We weren't alive when Forest won the league after getting promoted the previous season.
Yeah.
You know, and then winning the European Cup, you know, so...
I mean, even as a Spurs fan, you turn around and say, well, you know, we were the last non-league team to win the FA Cup. That's a pretty big achievement after most teams have gone professional. So I'd say that point is debatable. Premier League history, 100%, absolutely. That is the most miraculous story ever told. Considering their pre-season build-up to that as well, you know, like with the whole, they went off to Thailand or somewhere like that.
Yeah.
And there was a backlash.
They didn't have a great pre-season, did they? It was a bit of a mess. And
the manager got fired because he, like, I don't know, beat someone up in a nightclub or something like that, didn't it? It was something absolutely ridiculous. I can't remember who it was now. Was it Shakespeare? No, it wasn't Shakespeare.
Nigel Pearson.
That's the one, yeah.
And there was back surrounding area as well being appointed. They weren't happy.
Yeah, everyone was just like, that is ridiculous. Yeah, Leicester are going down.
Yeah, got laughed out of the press room pretty much, wasn't it? Like they've taken on Ranieri.
And then they went and did that. So, yeah. But, you know, I mean, that's the debate. Which team is the best team to win the Premier League? Which team is the best team to win?
In your opinion, which team is the best team to have won the Premier League? Putting club biases aside, Tom in his Arsenal shirt, just wait there it goes.
I'm going to put club biases aside straight away and say that Arsenal team. They went a whole season undefeated. That's
Yep.
That's really impressive. Now, I know Forest went, 3 games less than Arsenal, something like that. But they didn't actually go a whole proper season. They just went across
Forest
2 seasons, didn't they? So.
Yeah, Forest had the most consecutive number of games unbeaten, but not an entire full 0 to 38 calendar season.
Which is why
at that point. No,
it wasn't Premier League. Don't count. It don't count, does it? Football started in '92, didn't it? But that's my opinion. I personally think that Arsenal team is, the Invincibles. They went the whole season completely undefeated. That's impressive as hell. In my opinion. So, hands up. I'll say that.
That's the correct answer.
To be fair, I was going to say the Chelsea team, the Mourinho's second season, because it was around the time where United was still, it wasn't just 2 very good teams, which it was always traditionally been, where it was United or Arsenal, or now it's City and Liverpool. At kind of that point, there was the Arsenal team, coming off, could have potentially won the league that year. Liverpool could have won the league that year. It was probably the strongest they'd been since the formation of the Premier League. And then, so you got 3 teams there that could have done it, and Chelsea just literally ripped the league to shreds, playing not quite Mourinho-esque football. Wasn't just put loads of players behind the ball and grind a result out. They were blowing teams away.
So does then that raise the point? Was Didier Drogba the final puzzle piece?
Abramovich was the final puzzle piece for that, really.
Mourinho was the last puzzle piece.
Mourinho, okay. Fair enough. Who did they sign that summer? I don't know.
They signed everyone. They signed loads of players.
And Carvalho that summer as well, I think. And maybe sounds like Essien, but I think it was the year after. But I'd say Mourinho agree with that. Mourinho was probably the final piece of that puzzle, because they had Ranieri and they spent loads of money and they finished 3rd, I think it was.
Yeah. But
they needed that kind of winning mentality to push them over the top, and Mourinho was still with his aura of what he did in Portugal, was probably still at his absolute peak at that point.
Yeah, I'd agree, and probably for a couple of years after as well. I mean, because he went off and did it with Inter then as well, didn't he? So.
Yeah, it was when he went to Real Madrid that it started to kind of
the wheels started to come off a little bit.
Yeah. But between coming out of Portugal, going into Chelsea, and then going into Inter Milan, say that 3 times fast, was probably peak Mourinho at that point, where he was at his absolute, tactical best.
Any of the Man City teams? I think the first Guardiola season, they went 100 points. Was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to hold Chelsea to that level, then you need to hold City to the same level, because they basically accumulated the same amount of points, really, didn't they? So pretty much. I mean,
the City teams, I would do the first time they got 98 points when Liverpool got 97.
Oh yeah, that was
a very, very good team.
Yeah, I'm just reluctant to say City. I don't know why.
I'm just saying, if you had to pick one of the City teams that have won the league, that would be the one I would pick.
But then that's like saying, well, which is the worst Fulham team that's ever been relegated? Or worst Watford team. They're a yo-yo team.
Oh, God, yeah. Pick the worst Watford team.
But, yeah,
So it's not a Man United team, then? We wouldn't pick one specific Man United team?
I'm not picking a United team, no. I think that United were, dominant, but apart from that 99 team, I can't think of any United team that I've ever really watched and thought, I love watching this team.
Kind of like watching them when Rooney and Ronaldo were up front for them, like late 2000s. They won the Champions League.
The team that won the Champions League that team that won the Champions League over Chelsea.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say they were better than the teams we mentioned already.
No, I would not put a United team as one of the best teams to ever win the Premier League. But it's weird, because then I would say, well, that 99 team is probably one of the best teams in English football in history, which is weird because they won the league, but I wouldn't say they were the best team that won the league. It's really odd.
But Arsenal had more points than they had when they won the league the year before.
Yeah.
That's conceded less. I think we had the best Premier League defensive record that season up until Chelsea beat us. I probably picked that one out for Man United, probably, or one of the Ronaldo teams in the late 2000s.
But like I said, it's a really weird thing with me. Like I really fell out of football in like the 2000s. Like there's a really weird blank spot in my head for the 2000s. It's just like I cannot remember anything that happened in the 2000s for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I know what you mean, because it's hard to pick out like specific instances or talk about teams and players outside of like one or two teams. It's hard to. I couldn't tell you who got relegated in any season in the 2000s.
Tom probably.
Outside of like a Watford or a Palace had gone up and gone back down again, or Norwich for that matter.
Yeah.
The perennial yo-yos, because one of them would have been there and one would have gone down again. But specifically order. I went outside of Derby because they have the lowest points tally in history.
I remember that as well.
Yeah, they were shockingly awful.
So, I'm assuming that Tom's saying the same Arsenal team that I said as well, right? Yeah, okay. All right, so let's go back to the main topic then, the City United thing. So where do you land on this then, Thelan?
I would say still the United team.
Why is
personally.
That?
Going from nothing the season before to doing the treble at a time when it was harder for English clubs. Serie A was still probably top of the pecking order at that point.
Yeah, Italy
in terms of
really
like
strong,
league reputation, they had all the best players there, and they rolled through two Italian sides, including that game against that semi-final against Juventus.
Juve game, I really remember that. Yeah.
They were dead and buried in that tie as well when they were 3-1 down on aggregate, and then came back
very early as well.
But I remember that game was like driven by Roy Keane as well, wasn't it? He was. Yeah. I mean, he got booked in that game. He knew he'd missed the final, but he was like, "Shut up and get on with your jobs, you stupid bastards!" He was like,
Roy Keane, do your job.
Yeah.
I mean, Juventus were that mountain at that time, weren't they? If you get over them, you'll win the Champions League. Basically.
Or even just any Italian side really that got to the later stages of the Champions League, it was like you had to go through an Italian side to stand a chance of winning.
During the 90s,
just how good the Italian league was at that point.
In any cup competition in Europe, it was always the Italian teams you feared, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Whoever.
When the draw was being done, it was like, don't want an Italian team, don't want an Italian team, don't want an Italian team. Whereas now, because of the strength of the English league, it's almost expected that English teams should do well in the Champions League, should do well in Europe just in general.
This season shows that Italy is coming back a little bit, which is good to see.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really glad to see that. A nice Italian Milan derby for a semi-final. That's a spicy meatball,
I think that is tonight.
But,
I think if you beat Arsenal to a league title, then that makes you up there. This Man City team, that Man United team.
That's kind of the other parallel, isn't it? It's Arsenal are currently second in the league at the moment. City are going to potentially pit that, and
I think the only difference is Arsenal was so far ahead this season. Like, there wasn't really a thing in '99. Really, it was back and forth.
But Tom, Arsenal were top at Christmas.
That's I mean, we played at that point. We played less games, didn't we? So it doesn't really matter. Stupid statistic. We talked about that at the time. It's a stupid statistic.
Yeah, well, I think we mentioned it at the time, but
we did.
I'm glad that I'm being proven right. I like.
But no, yeah,
it's a nice thing to say out loud, but it doesn't.
Well, yeah.
Means nothing when you got like 2 months off.
Yes, but no, I would put that United team over the City team because of what the United team had to go through to try and win it.
Okay, so Tom, did you pick the same, or have you gone the other way?
I'm torn, to be honest. I would say that Man United team has more iconic players, but then, we always look fondly back at...
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Are we all looking back at this with a little bit of nostalgia, or...?
Nostalgia, yeah, exactly.
No, I tried to take that out of it from my point of view and just look at kind of the parallels of it. And as I said, the English league wasn't the dominant league at that point. It was the Italian league. They did beat 2 Italian teams on the way through. They did win nothing the season before. So for me, kind of the circumstances of it is what tips it more than just the fact it was the nostalgia of it.
See, now I'm going to be honest, and I honestly do believe that maybe my answer is swayed a little bit by nostalgia, because
this Man City team would beat that Man United team.
Probably, yeah. But then there's always they were the first to do it, which is really impressive. And like Tom said, Thelan said, sorry, they, the English league wasn't the top league in Europe at that point. I mean, regardless of what you believe now, the league in England is probably the most competitive league in Europe. No?
Serie A, isn't it?
You reckon? What? Yeah. I'm talking about like the last 5 to 10 years. I'm not talking about a one-off 2 seasons or something like that.
I mean, Mr. said Man City are going to win 4 out of 5.
This season, but like historically, Juventus have just steamrolled that league, haven't they? Yeah, but I'm just talking about over the last 5 to 10 years, where you've had the time to invest in the players and bring the better players. I mean, regardless of whether you got Barcelona or Real Madrid, Spain is just nothing joke league, pretty much, isn't it? I mean, it's like France. It's like, well, yeah, you've got all the money, but didn't hear any of that.
I don't think it's as bad as that, but I get your point.
But my point is the league, the competitiveness of the league, not the quality of the teams within it.
Yeah.
But I also think that I'm tainted a little bit because obviously it happened when I was a teenager, around my formative years. They had Teddy Sheringham in the team. He scored, a goal. It kind of makes me, he's my favourite player of all time. So I would definitely say that my answer's probably swayed a little bit by nostalgia, because if I do think about it, I think this Man City team would probably blow that team away. However, this Man City team with Alex Ferguson in charge of that United team at that point, Alex Ferguson could pull up a bit of a... But then this is the whole historical question, isn't it? Who would win, Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson? Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant? For our American listeners, I don't know if we have many American listeners for this show. But,
but you made a very good point. It's a good analogy.
Yeah,
it's an understandable analogy.
So
I mean, there's nothing wrong with being swayed by nostalgia of it, because it's that's. When you go to debates like this anyway, it's where you tend to go is the nostalgia of what, when you're comparing teams or you're comparing situations. Even if you compare the Spurs teams between like the Harry Redknapp years and the Pochettino years, there's always going to be you're going to be swayed by a little bit of nostalgia on that based on who your favourite players are at that point. That's the way it is, the way it goes.
But I think if you ask a lot of teenagers watching football now, they would all go, "Oh, this City team is like the best.
Of course,
it's so much better." Yeah, because they're living it now, which is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Does nostalgia play a larger than expected role in this debate? But I don't know.
As you said, the debate could be mute if Guardiola does a Guardiola next week, and
which I think it personally will be anyway. I think it's going to be moot, but
I would say this Man City team right now is probably better than a Man United team in '99, even if they don't win the treble. But
okay, do you think they'll be in a position to win a treble again, or do you think this is their best opportunity?
Oh, this is definitely the best opportunity, right? Are they going to get closer than this?
To this, well, they were in the final.
They're in the final of the FA Cup.
Yeah, but they weren't in a treble winning position.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure they've been in a treble winning position this late in the season before, right?
No.
No? See, there goes my brain again. See, it just assumes things most of the time.
Hey, the last time they got to Champions League, for the first time they got to Champions League final, I don't think they were in the FA Cup final that year.
No, I think they'd won the League Cup, but they didn't. But that's not included in any type of conversation when you're talking about a treble.
Which it should be. Yeah, Liverpool. Yeah. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't know why.
I'd like to see Haaland up against Yap Stam.
Yeah, that'd have been an interesting battle.
That would be interesting, yeah. But then, modern day football, would it? I mean, he'd probably give away like 3 penalties in the modern game. You wouldn't
Probably wouldn't make it past the 10th minute. He'd be sent off the pitch by then.
Yeah.
2 penalties given away and a red card inside the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, probably. I mean, given the way modern football is, yeah.
With about a 5-minute pause in between for a VAR review.
VAR, yeah.
Sorry.
But, yeah, I find it hard to get past that United team. I think I'm tainted by nostalgia, but...
Yeah. I'll say that Man City team then. So just to be contrarian.
Just to be different, yeah.
Just to be that odd one out.
Is that just because you can't make your mind up, so you just think, I'll just go the other way anyway, or are you just doing it to be divisive like always?
On a hypothetical scenario that Man City do win this treble, then yes, I would say they're better than me.
It hurts me to say it, but...
You just said Man United.
Yeah, I know, but I agree with you that this City team is probably better, but I don't want to admit that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to admit that. I'm very angry with this Man City team. I hate them, but I've got to remain impartial.
Because he's always impartial about Arsenal and stuff like that. So, do you think that being the first to do something should hold a lot more weight in this argument as well? Or do you think that that's unfair to say because it's like, well, you can only do it when you do it, it's not...
I always think that when you're talking about achievements like this, the first one to do it should always be considered special. Should always have, like, if it's a tiebreaker, the first one to do it should always win the tiebreaker because they were the first. Nobody had done it before then, so nobody knew what it would be like to do it in terms of using a football scenario. The demand, the consistency, the levels of performance, that sort of thing. So I always think the first one to do something should always win a tiebreak. When you're talking big achievements.
No, I guess so. I mean, if a team comes along and does it better, though, then...
That's what I'm saying. So now, Thelan, I'm going to put this to you because Tom's basically already put himself on the checkered line with that. So, the Spurs team that won the double for the first ever time, or that Arsenal team that won the double?
I mean, it's before our time, right? So how can we possibly...
That's what I'm saying. So is the first team to do it, should they always be considered one of the true greats? Or is it
100%.
Or is it
because
a case of like, well, we couldn't do it before we did it, so...
Yeah, because so many came beforehand, and there was probably great teams before that, but they couldn't do it. They didn't do it. That Spurs team did do it, so I would consider them one of the greatest teams because they were the first to do that.
See, I'm not going to take Tom's answer because he already said, well, if someone came along and did it better, so he's clearly going to say that Arsenal team did it better.
I mean, the only thing I'd say is I don't really know a lot about that Spurs team, but I know a lot about that Arsenal team because obviously I watched the videos and the goals from that season, the highlights and stuff like that. So I'm obviously going to go towards that. I don't know a lot about that Spurs team. So
all I know about that Spurs team is that I think Harry Kane was the top scorer that season. So.
Oh, really? That season? Arsenal did win the title.
I do think it adds a certain amount of weight to an achievement if you're the first one to do it. It doesn't matter then really because anybody that does it afterwards, you could always say they did it better or did it X, Y, Z, or they things like that. But they are the first ones to do it.
And I'd put that analogy across any sporting achievement, like the first person to be the undisputed heavyweight champion, to have all of those belts, to unite all of those belts, the first one to do it. That holds a significant amount of weight. It doesn't matter if 20 years later somebody comes across in 4 fights and wins all 4 belts in 4 fights with first round knockouts. He's not the first person to do it. It's such a rare achievement that it holds a significant amount of weight to it. That's why nobody's won the treble since that United team done it, because it requires a significant amount of effort and luck and things to go your way. It always, for me, it would always, as I said, it would always be the tiebreaker in those situations. Look at it.
Good debate.
It's just because if you use that argument, then like the first team to win the FA Cup when there was like 3 teams in it.
Yeah.
The first team to win the first ever Football League.
Yeah.
It's like, is it that impressive if there hasn't been any before you? I mean, does there need to be a certain amount of time to pass where people can go, actually, this is quite tough, in order for something to come along to look like it's that impressive? Or is it just, no, the first to do it? Like, if the first... I mean, I in boxing, this analogy wouldn't work because all of the belts came out at all different times, basically. So the first person to ever win a boxing match couldn't win all 4 titles. So it's like, but I'm pretty sure like the first boxing match was probably like in the 16th century or something like that as well. So, but like, so the first person, yeah. Well, let's use the FA Cup then. Yeah, the first team to win the FA Cup when there was like 3 or 4 teams in it.
I mean,
still the first team to win the competition. That's never going to change. That can't be taken away. You mentioned earlier about Spurs being the only non-league team to ever win the FA Cup.
Mm-hmm.
So if another non-league team comes along and wins the FA Cup,
not only last non-league team to win the FA Cup,
yeah,
because all teams were non-league before. So,
but that's my point. That you've just answered your own point, because all teams were non-league at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So if a non-league team or a lower league team comes along and wins the FA Cup,
mm-hmm.
Now would you say that they're the better team because they did it better?
I would personally probably say yes, because there is far more money in the game now, and in order to compete at a level a la Man City, we have seen that you need a crap ton of money in order to be successful. So if a non-league team with a budget of like £10,000 a year comes and wins the FA Cup, I will turn around and go, they are the greatest team in all FA Cup history. 100%. I don't care that Arsenal's won it the most. This team beat out all the competition with the billions and billions of pounds. Would that change
your opinion on the Spurs team that was the last non-league team to win the FA Cup?
But they wouldn't be the last non-league team to win the FA Cup anymore, would they?
What if that non-league team just avoided all Premier League teams?
I don't think that'll be possible, but yeah.
Millwall got to the FA Cup final without playing a Premier League team, I believe.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Until they faced Man United in the final.
But then even championship sides, they've got buttloads of money as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it comes down to your perspective on things.
But my point still remains valid, because they wouldn't be the last non-league team to win the FA Cup anymore. So
it's not bad again anyway. So you know.
But if it did, oh my god, that would be way more impressive than Leicester.
Yeah, well, to be fair, you could see it in a Wrexham, couldn't you? At some point, the way they were
not non-league anymore.
Not league now. They're league big time.
Right. Have we answered your point, Thelan, do you think?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't really answering a point. It was just about creating a bit of debate.
Yeah, it's good debate. Yeah, it's hard to tell either way, isn't it? There's no right answer, apart from my opinion.
Of course.
We'll revisit this at the end of the season if and when City win the treble, and then get Tom's opinion on it at that point.
Let's hope they don't.
Yeah, let's hope they don't.
To put bow on it, I don't think they will. I think even if they beat Real Madrid in the semi-final, Guardiola will do something spectacularly Guardiola in the final and screw it up to the point where even Erling Haaland can't rescue the team.
Not nailed on either, to be honest. They can have a bad day.
Yeah.
I don't think
United will be up for it, and by the way that they've fallen off the last few games, it could be the only thing they got left to play for in their season. So,
but they need to do best, and we've seen them end up the season. A lot of times they haven't been.
No,
but the problem is that look at this. Okay, so just to finish this point off, look at this Man City team. Compare it to that Man United team, and tell me which team you think.
For position.
No, just the team in general, with the whole ethos around the club and the man at the top, the guy in charge as well. Look at this team, everything in general, and tell me which one you think would be more likely to implode.
City.
Do you look at that United team and think they could have just blown up at any point and lost 4-0, you know? Whereas you look at this City team and you think, they're fragile, man. They're like, something goes wrong and they just could capitulate.
Have Man City been on the end of a thrashing this season or anything like that?
But are you telling me that they can't be on the end of a thrashing? That's what I'm asking you.
Newcastle put 3 past them earlier. Defensively, yeah, there's question marks about them defensively.
Whereas I look at that United team and I think that's a team that proved time and time again, even if they went behind, well, you can still come back and win.
Yeah.
And I don't see any team really drubbing them either. You know, that United team, look, with Alex Ferguson in charge at that point, at his peak, they were rock solid. You know, they might concede a couple of goals, but they could still come back and win 4-2. You know, I don't see them just absolutely imploding like this City team has the potential to.
And also, City are in danger of becoming a one-man team. It's the Erling Haaland show, isn't it? He scored so many bloody goals this season.
I mean, I don't think that's necessarily a problem because I think they've still got goals throughout the rest of the team, even if he doesn't show up. It's the defence. I just look at that defence and think, you're still shocking.
But they've still got one of the best defensive records this season, so...
Yeah, but I just
because
think...
teams are at the point where they're having to chase the game, so it creates space. And, you know, from yourself playing football, once you're like 3-0 down, it's like, just get this game over and done with now.
What's the point now? Yeah.
Yeah. Not so much down in tools, but it is like, do I need to go put myself on the line for this 50-50 ball when the game's already 3-0 down?
We've already lost.
I mean?
I'm not going to injure myself now for no reason. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why, because teams just, it becomes for them, it's about damage limitation, isn't it? It's not so much about going to try and put one in City's net, it's about trying to stop it going in your own net. So that's why I think defensively, City's record is probably slightly better than it probably should, than it looks.
Do you guys?
I think, Sorry, go on.
Do you guys think if Man City win the Champions League, then that'll be the end of their era? They're down tools a little bit, or do you think they'll continue on being?
No, their team's young enough, they're getting younger in a lot of positions that I don't see that happening.
I don't think that they'll retain it, but I think that it won't be the last time that they win it. Once they win that first one. If they win that first one, I should say. We shouldn't say when they win their first one. If they win that first one, because Arsenal were pretty much, everyone was going, well, it's only a matter of time before they win a Champions League, isn't it? You know, and then look what happened there.
I say kind of getting Champions League, but now we will.
Their goalkeeper got sent off after 18 minutes, and after that they had no chance.
Didn't help.
But then would you have looked at that, and during that era, at that period in time, would you have looked at that and said that's going to be their only final? That's their one chance. You'd go, they'll probably go back and again next year.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
I mean, at the time, it felt like shit, but yeah, I probably would have said, I think we got the potential to do it again. But it never happened. So
we're not, I don't know why we're saying when City win the Champions League, because they might not ever. You know, I mean, well, in our lives, I mean, history's really long. 600 years time, who knows what's going to happen?
Whether it's this season, next season, or 5 seasons from now, at some point they will win the Champions League.
Okay,
if money keeps coming in every season.
Yeah, at some point they'll win the Champions League. As I say, I'm not saying it's going to be this season, not to say it's next season, or
there are
more
and more teams with this money coming in, this money coming in, this money coming in. So if they didn't capitalise when they were one of like the 3-4 teams max in Europe that had that much investment pumped into them, with more and more teams having that kind of money coming into them now, why do we still think, oh yeah, it's only a matter of time because they have that money coming in?
Because where the club is at the moment, infrastructure, what they've got in place, it's going to take... You just look at Newcastle, for example. They've got all this money coming through, but they're still probably another 3 or 4 seasons away from really having the squad and infrastructure together to go challenge at the top of the league.
You say that, but then we all said they're probably 2 or 3 seasons away from qualifying for the Champions League, and yet they might do it in like the first season.
Yeah, but then it becomes how the squad that they have then copes with the demands of playing in the Champions League, and also with the new format coming in. I think that will make it very different. I think if anything, the new format makes it easier for the bigger clubs within the European pyramid to get into the Champions League, because you don't need to now qualify through the league. You can just have your coefficient number and you can finish wherever friggin' hell you end up in your league. And 2, with the way it splits, if you're in that top 8, you go into the next round of the Champions League. So it's almost geared for these bigger clubs to just hold dominance rather than actually opening it up for some other teams in Europe.
But then what's your definition of a bigger club? Because, if you're talking historically, I would not say City are a big club. Recently, yeah, but historically, if you're talking about your Real Madrids, your Liverpools, your AC Milans, stuff like that, then... Yeah, but Man City, no, I would not say that they're a big side historically. So why? If you're talking about money, sorry, I didn't hear that. What
about the here and now, and they are the don't now.
Yeah. I'm talking here and now
because of money.
Teams with money.
So now Newcastle are going to have that money. So why aren't Newcastle guaranteed of that spot, huh?
Because there's a difference between the established money over the last 10 years and the new money. You could put that money into any mid-table team in any league in Europe, and it doesn't mean they're instantly going to go dominating the Champions League. We've seen it takes time. No one's going to repeat the Chelsea scenario where Abramovich comes in and within 3 years they're winning the leagues and getting into finals of the Champions League. That's not going to happen. The European football is too competitive and there's too much money around.
You look at Chelsea this season; they've thrown 600 million at it, and
and they've got nowhere. They're going to finish 12th probably.
Yeah, it's about good recruitment.
So it's got to be done kind of the right way, and it has to be more gradual, which is why Newcastle are not in that position right now.
All I'm saying is when it comes to money, don't write any decision making off on UEFA's or FIFA's deliberations. Money talks.
Dirty cash.
Dirty cash. No, can't sing. We're going to get copyrighted. Okay, so Tom, what did you want to talk about?
Well, I'm toying between 2 teams this week, Brighton and Leicester, but I think I'm going to go with Brighton because I think they're pretty much securing what we're going to get at the end of the season, so we don't look completely stupid by the time we talk. If we talk, I don't know
if they repeat Monday's result a few times, then they could.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing with Brighton is if they're going to get Europe or not, but. Even if they don't, they've still had a great season anyway, regardless, right?
Yeah. I'm not a fan, Thelan. You tell me.
You're a fan, right? I mean, it would be didn't do it, but still, you think of how far they've come.
Yeah, we were just talking about like the money and journey and things like that. What Brighton have done has been impressive in the way that the Premier League is built now. I don't know if they'll repeat it next season. I think the squad will get gutted.
No, I mean they've got rid of good players before, and it hasn't been a problem. But eventually that will catch up with you, I guess.
Yeah, you just got to look at the Southampton situation. At some point, you can't keep relying on finding these gems.
I mean, it's working this season like amazingly well, isn't it?
And it worked for Southampton for a good 3 or 4 years, to the point, when they had Mane and they had Mane there and they had Van Dijk there and things like that. But eventually, it comes back to bite you because it's just not the same quality. And the one thing you can't do in the Premier League is stand still. Spurs have proved that across the last 3 seasons. You can't stand still in the Premier League because everybody around you will get better. And the competitiveness of the league is probably the most competitive it's probably ever been, in terms of that 3 to 14th position, that kind of mid-block in the table. Any one of those teams can finish anywhere between 3 and 14. Yeah, and it takes a couple of bad results and you're spinning down the league very quickly.
I mean, other than Man City winning the league every year, it's been pretty competitive this season, like in terms of those European places, isn't it? A lot of teams in and around that. I don't know if I told this story on the podcast before. I might have done, but the first football game I ever went to was Brighton in '96 at the Goldston Ground.
Yeah, you have, but carry on.
The game was called off after 15 minutes because there was a pitch invasion because the fans came on the pitch and just the place because they were up in arms about them getting rid of the Goldston Ground, basically having no home, nowhere to play football. And then the next season they almost got relegated to the non-league and set up on the last day of the season. And you think of how far they've come now, almost in Europe, and with a penalty shootout of reaching the FA Cup final, which was they were the better team on the day. Probably should have won if football.
Yeah, if Batoma had been able to control a pass and the whole goal to aim at and put it straight at De Gea instead.
Yeah, but it's just amazing to see how far they've come. From those days. Yeah.
Yeah, the journey that the club has taken in the last 20 some odd years has been pretty extraordinary when you think about what it's been through and whatnot. But as I say, they need to probably change strategy slightly in the summer. If they're going to lose McAllister probably to Liverpool, say they might well end up at Arsenal if they're prepared to pay the money for them. It's how they replace those players. And we've seen the Premier. It only takes one poor managerial appointment, because they got quite lucky coming out of Graham Potter and into De Zerbi. That could have gone horribly, horribly wrong.
It didn't start well, did it? But he's
no. Because you just look at Villa between Gerrard and Unai Emery.
Yeah, Emery's done
same squad, same squad pretty much. They didn't sign too many players in January, Villa, and they the most. Outside of City, I think, and Arsenal, they've got the most points since the World Cup.
Yes, they have, yeah.
So it also shows you about how getting it right with the guy you bring in can make a massive, massive difference to that team.
So I looked at, I don't know where it came up the other day on Facebook, somewhere on Twitter, something like that. They're the biggest wage bills in the Premier League.
Yeah,
and Brighton have the second least wage bill in the Premier League that they spend money on. Brentford are bottom. So that's two right there who've had great seasons this year, and they've got the lowest wage bill. Who has the highest?
Chelsea probably now.
Yeah, I was going to say Chelsea. Yeah,
you can't spend £600 million on players and not have the biggest wage bill in the league. Yeah. Although I read somewhere this week that because Chelsea spent £600 million on players and have got a first team squad of about 30 somewhere, they had to extend the dressing room at the training ground and the football stadium because they couldn't get all the players in.
They're going to shift a load of those during the summer though anyway, aren't they? There's going to be a loads of players that are going to be on their way out.
They're going to have to comply with FFP because they've got no Premier League money now because they're finishing so far down the league table. They've got no European money to bail them out. I'd hate to see what their FFP deficit is. It's going to be horrific.
That doesn't really mean anything these days anyway, does it? Who knows what that means? It's all over the place,
It's like Nottingham Forest. They signed like 20 players in the summer, and then they signed more in the January transfer window, so they couldn't register players that they signed in the summer.
Yeah,
so it's not club, and it's just a mess. But it might looks like it might work out for them in the end.
Yeah, it looks like they might stay up though.
So would you guys say that Brighton are probably the best run football club in England right now? Or would that be Man City?
I don't know how many clubs, how most of the clubs are run.
Just say Premier League. Rather than look at Luton, obviously, in the Championship. They obviously must be pretty well run if they're competing for Premier League promotion, for example, with the small ground and, money they have. But yeah, in the Premier League, probably I would say they are the best run club, and obviously in terms of recruitment as well, they're probably the best team right now in terms of finding these little gems, and putting them into the team and then getting rid of players for lots of money.
Probably, but like you've just been talking about, that doesn't always necessarily a good business plan make,
Yeah, I don't think it's, as I said earlier, it's going to work as a long-term strategy. Short-term it's worked really well, but I think long-term it's not going to hold up.
I mean, if they keep staying in the Premier League, they're obviously going to be spending more money on players, right?
Yeah.
Well, you'd like to think that now that they're like in this situation where they're pushing for Europe and stuff like that, that they might be a little bit more inclined to dig their heels in over transfers and say, no, you're contracted to us. You're not going anywhere, and maybe cough up a little bit more in wages in order to facilitate that. It's not going to work with all of the players because, I'm sure there are going to be players that are like, well, that's it, I'm going AWOL then, or something like that, but maybe to show a little bit more competitiveness.
It's how they show ambition versus willingness to just kind of be happy with where they are.
Yeah.
So to speak.
I mean, you know
what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I know what you're trying to say, but I'm one for really banging on about stay in your lane. Don't overreach too much, because we've seen how that capitulates so badly sometimes. So there's not so much wrong with being happy with what you've got, but taking baby steps towards improvement, I think, is a very, we need to look to do that, for like 5, 10, 15 years in the future. Not right, well, now we qualify for Europe. Next year, let's push for the Champions League.
Don't be splashing the cash.
Yeah, but I think the fans need to realise that as well. Fans need to go, okay, well, if next season we finish 10th again, we shouldn't be disappointed with that. We should go, okay, that's fine. We've got the experience now. Isn't it? Yeah, and I think the fans sometimes are a little bit bad in that they're like, well, no, now we've taken that step forward, we need to stay there and then take another step forward.
And as long as Brighton are playing the Brighton way, because Brighton is synonymous.
Oh yeah, synonymous with sexy football. Yeah.
Keep that Brighton ethos going.
But
you know what I mean, right? Like fans are very much,
because if next season starts and they're, I don't know, for argument's sake, 15th after 10 games or something stupid like that, it's going to be how trigger happy does the club get in terms of the manager?
Then I'll tell you how well run they are.
Yeah, that will be the definition of it, because outside of removing Chris Hughton because they wanted to take the club in a different direction for how Chris Hughton had the team set up, and they stayed in the Premier League for a couple of seasons, they've not dismissed and brought another manager in. Potter's situation was taken out of their hands because he went to go to Chelsea. So it's what happened. Is that what happened next? Do they panic and bring in a little bit like what Spurs have done to a degree? Bringing a serial winner to help guide them through into where they think they should be, or do they bring somebody in that can
steady the ship, keep them in that kind of mid-table area, which is, as Richard said, is kind of the lane at the moment, that 12th to 8th kind of area.
If Brighton bring in Frank Lampard, I'll be worried. That's when you start getting worried, I think.
Or a Gerrard, or do you know what I mean? Like something like that.
Yeah. When start getting.
But it is also about keeping some of these players. About how do they show that they match that bit of ambition about trying to keep some of their better players, because again, long term, that's not a viable strategy to keep selling your best players. It's not going to keep you in the Premier League.
I'd like them to not completely, because realistically, if someone comes in with like a £90 million bid for a player, you're going to be like, okay, well, that's a good bid. But I think that they should dig their heels in a little bit more. Like players that are on got 3 or 4 years left on their contract, dig your heels in a little bit more and say, no, you're contracted to this club.
They're doing the January though. When what player was it that was linked with Arsenal?
Casado,
yeah. He wanted to go, didn't he? He put out a thing on Instagram saying, I want to leave, please let me leave. And then they dug their heels and then refused. And
that's good to see. I like to see that, I don't like this whole players have all of the power. And it's like, okay, well, if you want the option to leave every season, maybe sign a 1-year contract. For less money. Oh, but you're not going to do that, though, are you? Because it's less money. That's why.
What's Alexis McAllister's contract situation? Is he in the last year of his contract, or what?
No, 2 years I think he's got after this.
So they could just turn around and say, no, you're staying.
Yeah. But then if someone comes in with a ridiculous bid for him, then I'd be like, okay, yeah, I can understand why.
The impression I get from Brighton will accept an offer that meets their valuation from Champions League clubs for a lot of the players, because they're not going to stand in their way. But it's always been, and the message has always been, it's got to meet the Brighton's valuation. They're not just going to accept any kind of offer. That's why Chelsea ended up overpaying for Cucurella, because Brighton said 60 mil. You ain't going anywhere for 60 mil.
No. Sorry.
They got 63 million for Cucurella. They're probably laughing at that now. And they got,
they're definitely laughing at the Bazuma transfer anyway, because he's been shocking since he left.
And they got Estupiñán. Is it Estupiñán?
Estupiñán.
Yeah, he's left back now, isn't he? He's great. He's exciting. What was I going to say about Brighton? They were linked with Watford player. Was it João Pedro the other day?
He's been signed.
Oh, he's been signed. And that was the record transfer.
He was unveiled on Monday. Yeah, record transfer.
30 million is their record transfer, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not.
And they got James Milner, by all accounts, coming in on a free as well.
Which I think is a great move all round. I think for both teams, that's a great move.
Yeah.
For him, I think that's a really good environment to be in. And I think for Brighton, that's a great player to bring in, because he still can do it at that level.
He can still definitely do a job.
Yeah.
But it helps that really young squad. And there's a couple of moments you saw it in the cup semi-final where they needed some experience, and the experienced player, really experienced, was really trying to grab that team on the pitch. Yeah, and it just wasn't there.
His influence will be enough.
Massive.
I don't think he's going to play every game. But...
No. I don't think. But he'll be doing basically the job he's doing at Liverpool now, isn't it? It's like, I'll fill in when I'm needed. I'll come on off the bench to see out a game. Like if calmer heads need prevailing. But it's more. I hate this expression because it's really annoying. But it's more a signing for the dressing room than for the pitch.
I would say so.
He knows the league, doesn't he? He knows.
Yeah, he knows the league. He's friends with the tea lady of the league.
It's gonna to mentor those younger players to Brighton.
But but that does have a big influence, doesn't it? It's like you can turn around and see it from the negative side.
Your time as a football coach, the impact players can have in dressing rooms.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to get rid of the ones that like are constantly undermining you and giving you issues. But then you also know as a coach when to step back and let that one guy talk, because that's the guy everyone's going to listen to. And you're like, right, you don't need me to say anything. Listen to him. This is the person you want to be listening to. And then I'll just go, everyone good? And then they'll be like, yeah. And you go, off you go. I didn't say anything,
Look at the way Brighton have integrated Danny Welbeck. He doesn't always play, but he's decent.
Same as Lallana, that he's probably the biggest success story in terms of a player in the second half of his career. If he could stay fit and on the pitch, he makes such a difference to that Brighton side in terms of dictating the flow of the game. They're definitely a poorer side when Lallana's not on the pitch.
But I mean, yeah, I think they're doing smart moves in the transfer window. It seems, and like I said, as long as they dig their heels in a little bit more with some of the the bigger teams and some of the players that they've got, they're better performing players, then I would see that that's a sign of progression. As a fan, personally, I would look at that and go, right, well, at least we're aiming to be competitive. We might not finish in this position every season, but we're working towards moving forward, which is what I think football clubs should do. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that's the mentality that promoted teams should have when they come up.
Yeah.
Rather than just going boom or bust.
Yeah. Stay, solidify your position, gradually start to aim to move forward, rather than this, right, we've been in the league for 3 seasons now, you've kept us up, but your football's boring, get out. It's time that we try and qualify for Europe. And it's like...
Back to the philosophy again.
Yeah, but but there's so many teams do that now, because obviously the money's crazy, obviously up at the high echelons, and that's all they're looking at. They've got pound signs in their eyes, haven't they, So it's like... I like a club like... I will be interested to see what Brentford do next season as well, for instance.
Yeah, same.
They've had a great season, but if they slip up a little bit and drop back down into their lane, and yes, for those who aren't watching the video, I am putting up air quotations, but will they be quick to go, oh crap, and like Thelan says, and pull the trigger and, think, well, no, we need to be finishing up where we were last season, That'll be interesting to see.
Clone in the summer as well, though. How do they replace him?
Yeah, but again, are they going to dig their heels in, or are they going to say?
The Tony situation is going to be whether he gets suspended for an entire season or not, with his betting stuff over his head.
Yeah.
Might be taken out of their hands. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not so much if they sell him in the summer; it's more about what they're going to do when he gets suspended, because he's going to get suspended. There's no kind of if, buts, or maybes on that. There's too many charges for.
Do you reckon it will be a full season now, or do you think they'll kind of cop out and be like 10 games?
I think it'll be a full season, and then on appeal it will go down to probably half. I think because whatever the first charge is, it always gets reduced on appeal. So I
can see 18 down to 10.
I'd say 10 games enough. I don't think you need to punish him that much.
I don't know. For me, it's just the amount of it. Well, you think Kieran Trippier got done for half a season, didn't he? And he didn't have half as many as what Tony's got.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Do you know what I mean? If you're talking about precedent, Ivan Toney's got 256 charges against him or something stupid like that. Kieran Trippier had a guy bet on his own transfer and he got done for 6 months.
Rio Ferdinand got suspended for 6 months for missing a drugs test, not failing it.
Missing a drugs test.
Yeah, okay. All good points. Yeah, good points.
So I can initially see it being a season ban reduced to half season on appeal.
I hope it's not a season though. That's just too much.
How long did Cantona get?
6 months. It was from January to the end of.
No, he got done for 6 to 8 months because he missed mid-season to mid-season, didn't he?
Yeah, he didn't start the season for Man United. He came. Is it October? Playing again?
Yeah, he come back in October.
So it was about 6 to 8 months. Wasn't it?
So now you need to question: I don't know why I'm asking this question because I know the answer already. Is potentially messing around with money worse than kicking someone in the face? Like I said, I already know the answer.
Yeah, it's a premeditated thing you're doing, isn't it? Whereas if you kick someone in the face, it's like it's an
emotional reaction, isn't it?
It's also the clues in the answer as well. You're messing around with money. Yeah, that's the worst offence you can make.
Yeah.
What's that? You killed someone, okay, but you didn't mess around with any money though, right? No, okay.
Yeah, there's no money laundering involved in that. No fraud or money laundering. You're all good.
Did you steal his wallet? No, okay. 3-game suspension.
So, do you guys think Brighton will make Europe at the end of the season?
So speaking as, I mean, Tom, you're not, but I mean, you live here now, so I don't know whether you adopt it or not. But speaking as West Sussex boys, I would love to see them in Europe. For sure, man. A West Sussex team in Europe. That would be great. I'd love to see that. I mean, like I said, Tom, I know you're a Surrey boy, but you live here now, so, and I know that you like Brighton, so, you know.
Thelan?
I'd like to say yes, because I get to go watch games, European games, so happy days for me. But I don't know. I think
are you worried about the Burnley effect?
Yeah.
I'm going to be positive and say they will make Europe because they still have games in hand, right? They still have played games.
Yeah, their games in hand are Newcastle and Manchester City.
Yeah. Okay, now you said that. I reckon if they do it, it'll be a Conference League.
Oh yeah, it'll be Conference League.
I think even that's good enough.
No, I think after Monday's defeat, Europa League's out of the question. I think Conference League is where what the aim should be, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, it's probably because it's got such a stupid name, but I mean, like, if you qualified for the Cup Winners' Cup back in the past, there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's
about to say that. I was literally about to say that.
But I just think that.
I think it's good.
Yeah, I think it gives more teams like this a chance to get into Europe. You know, so
they've been
shows that it can be done.
Yeah. I mean,
but the running's not helpful, and it makes me nervous. So I don't think they'll make it based on the running. And I'm going to get crucified now by any Brighton season ticket holder or person that knows me. He's going to probably crucify me after this. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Spurs probably be 6th. Then 5th will be Liverpool or Man United or Newcastle.
Yeah.
So 7th will be Brighton or Villa.
Yeah.
Probably. And I think Brighton are better than Villa just about. But
just think for like I said, for like West Sussexian pride, it'll be nice to see Brighton there. And they've never, have they ever been in Europe before? I can't.
No.
I didn't know if like maybe under Clough they like qualified or something.
No, because that's when all English teams were banned anway from Europe. So the only time that Brighton had been out that time was when English teams weren't allowed in Europe. So
like an Intertoto Cup or something like that, maybe. But...
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see Brighton in Europe. I think that'll be awesome, But it's probably going to make Brighton fans insufferable. But
Oh, most definitely. There'll be parties in the street. But I think it's going to come down to the final game, and Brighton's final game is Aston Villa away. So,
that's a good last game.
Interesting, wouldn't it? Yeah, if it's all on the line going into that game, that'd be good to see. I'd like that.
Because the run-in's literally, I think it's Arsenal, then it's Southampton. It's Arsenal, Newcastle, Southampton, City, Villa. That's the run-in.
I mean, that'd be a great game if it all goes in on the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like
it's that kind of scenario sometimes you need in the league season, isn't it? Winner take all, last game of the season.
The script writers knew, obviously, that there needed to be something like that going into the finale,
Attract with Europa Conference League football,
But again, like I said, it's basically the Cup Winners' Cup. It's just got a crapper name, isn't it? So
yeah,
What don't you? He's back. What don't you don't?
I said I don't think the name of the competition's done itself any favours.
No, it's just
the Conference League.
Yeah, it just reminds you, because we have the football conference, don't we? It just reminds you of low non-league, doesn't it? It's just like
they backed themselves into a corner with it, because you got the Champions League, the Europa League, and then they needed another league name, but they backed themselves into a corner a little bit, because they couldn't really call it the Europa League 2 either, which is what one of the floated ideas wasn't it?
The Europa League 2 Electric Blue.
Yeah.
Europa League B.
Yeah, that would be bad as well. So
yeah.
But I mean, what was wrong with the old cups? Conference. Champions League, UEFA Cup, Cup Winners' Cup. What was wrong with those?
Because the cup
they weren't leagues.
Maybe the league winners. That's why they kind of got rid of it.
The what?
Cup winners were usually the league winners at a certain point, so they kind of got rid of it for that reason.
I just think the names are naff now. Europa League.
Oh yeah, the Champions League is a misleading name because they're not all champions.
European Cup made way more sense.
Yeah, it did. They should have when it comes to the rebranding of the Champions League for whenever it goes live. They should have called it the European Cup. At that point, it should have been called the European Cup.
But then for the American audience, it wouldn't work because you can't do ECL. You know, they love their threes, don't they?
That's probably where the Conference League came about from.
Yeah.
So ECL, yeah.
The ECL. Yeah, oh no, wait. There's too many ECLs. There's too many ECLs. ECL or ECL. Which one am I talking about? Oh no.
But just talking about European competitions, just quickly, West Ham, and they're fighting relegation from the Premier League, but they're in the semi-final of the Conference League.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're pretty much safe in the Premier League now, but they could.
But I think that's probably what you're fearful of as well, right? West Ham, that was the other team I was trying to think of. I knew that there was another side, and I was like, the only one I can think of is Burnley right now. So, but yeah, I'm assuming that that's what a lot of Brighton fans are worried about as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of strain to put on a small squad, isn't it? So.
Yes.
Was that Burnley team played something like 53 games or something by mid-season or something? It was
something ridiculous like that, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like, Jesus, that's a lot of stress to put on a small team. Because
they get to come back from the pre-season at like the beginning of July to go for all the qualifying rounds, so they only really had like 3 weeks off, didn't they? So it's like significant amount of stress on a lower league, on a smaller budget.
Yeah,
when you're not experienced in Europe anyway. Yeah. So
it kind of makes it like UEFA Cup teams would historically, or Europa League as well. They'd basically just try and throw it away because they're like, I don't really want to be in this competition. I'd rather put all my resources to the League Cup. League Cup's another one as well, isn't it? Most teams are just like, I don't really want to put my resources to this. The
League Cup's an inconvenience to just every team that's not.
So as a smaller team, would you want to go as far as you could in Europe but risk relegation, or put out your under-21s in the European competition and just make sure that you perform well in the league?
I think the first time you get in it, you want to make a good impression. You want to do well because that's like your opportunity to kind of announce yourself to the rest of Europe, as it were. Mm-hmm. But I think if you ask most clubs, if they got to the kind of what we class as like the business end of the European competition, but you're fighting relegation from the Premier League, you're going to flip your resources to the Premier League because that's where the money is.
I think the other problem is as well is you got to think about like the players, because I imagine a lot of the players that are at that team are going to be like, I'm going to be playing in Europe. You know, they might be really bummed out if you're like, oh, well, we qualified and I haven't played one game. Well, thanks for that.
That's what I mean. So, you want to make a good impression to start off with. The players are really excited to be there. You've attracted players because you're in a European competition. But 8 months later, if push comes to shove and you've got to pick one of two over winning potentially in Europe or getting relegated from the Premier League, you're going to try and stay in the Premier League.
That's where you got to be honest with your players that you sign. Tell them what their roles going to be for the new season. Unlike Conte, who told Richarlison he's going to be the main starter for Spurs over Harry Kane. Son.
But he did start the first few games, didn't he? But then, he went.
He was
back
injured and then never came back.
Yeah.
Because I think he spun in the line because we didn't have Kulusevski till October, November. And then, coincidentally, Richarlison got injured around the same time Kulusevski come back. And then there was no place for Richarlison, who still hasn't scored enough goals anyway to even merit his place in the team.
One league goal, hasn't he? So, one league goal.
One league goal, two goals.
2 goals in total, isn't it? Or is it 3?
3. 2 in Europe.
Immediately cancel that. So, does it matter? Does it count?
Yeah, whatever.
Whatever it is, it's not enough. Whatever it is wasn't enough. But yeah, going back to it from a selfish point of view, yeah, I'd quite like to see them in there. So I get to go to the European game, which is obviously not something I've done before.
I'll probably charge you extra for that, though.
Yeah, I ain't going to get that included with my season ticket. I'm going to pay extra for that.
Then they used to include first 6 European games or something like that.
Yeah, but that's just because you got there every season. So it just became a null and void point by that point, wasn't it? It was just like, yeah, well, I might as well just chuck it in with the season ticket. I mean, we're there every year anyway, so
pay more than anyone else anyway, so they might as well fucking chuck it in.
Yeah, that was their justification for paying more. You get to see 6 European games. That's the justification.
I don't have a Hall of Fame this week, I'm afraid, gentlemen.
What?
Yeah, I couldn't think of a topic. Because I like to theme the Hall of Fame. Because otherwise I'm just picking random players and it's just like, well, why are you putting that? Yeah, I could. But then what? Greatest European players. Yeah, I could have done that. See, you should be the host, Tom. Why don't you come and sit here? Come on, you come and do this job. Yeah, I just was drawing a blank. I was trying to think for the whole week. I was just like, come on, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? And then I was just like, I can't think of anything. And then it got to yesterday, and I thought of something, but it was way too late to do the research and stuff like that. So, but it's nowhere near as good as Tom's idea. Mine was really stupid and dumb.
A classic Inter Milan player or a classic AC Milan player.
Oh, see, he's coming up with all the ideas. I just drew a blank.
Yeah, never mind.
I don't know why, but just for some reason this week I was just like, I can't think about anything. Like I was trying to research films for Terrifying Tom as well, and I'm like, what can I don't know which one to choose. I was like, I don't know why. It was just, sometimes you have those weeks where you just have complete brain fog and nothing seems to.
That's 90% of my week, but
But yeah, it was.
Suggestions out for you if you want. But
pardon?
I could throw some suggestions out for you if you want.
No, I don't want to do it because I don't have the research, do I? I'll pick this player or this player. It's like
Richard's got to make a story. We got to have a story out of it. You got to have the backstory. You've got to care about it.
Yeah, you need to have you need to build the world and the characters. It's character building makes the story.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Need to get Maradona back in that Hall of Fame, mate.
Who?
Maradona. He's getting back in that Hall of Fame. No, he's done. He's done.
That's it.
It's one and done, mate.
Yeah. Our Hall of Fame is prestigious. You get one shot and one shot only, and that's it.
Maradona against Richarlison. Who's going to make that?
Richarlison, obviously.
Did
Maradona never scored in the Premier League? Yeah, so
no, never done it.
He don't want it, does he? He don't want it. Well, anyway, gentlemen, sorry about that. I do apologise, and I apologise to you, our audience, as well. It was unacceptable of me, but I would like to point out, I would like to point out that I do all of the work on these podcasts. Tom has to just go away and think of some songs he wants me to listen to. Thelan doesn't have to do anything at all. He literally just... Shut up. He literally just hangs up the phone and buggers off to his Brighton season ticket, All right, Tom has to pick some songs and go, okay, well, what did they do in this year? Yeah.
What's those episodes as well,
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, Thelan does nothing except for mess up all of my electronics. But but my point is that we've got 5 podcasts that I have to edit and everything like that, and then 4 that I need to do research for, the YouTube channel as well. It's just sometimes it just gets a little bit too much, and this was one of those weeks where it just got on top of me, I'm afraid. So I do apologise profusely. We will be back with a Hall of Fame next time. I do promise. I'm going to consult Tom next time because he obviously just can pick.
Just rattled it off, didn't he? He was just like, you could have done this and you could have done that.
Could have done that, could have done this. This is a good one. That's a good one. It's like, oh man, Jesus. You're making me look stupid here, man. Come on. You're supposed to be like, no, it's all right, Richard. We forgive you. It's okay. You got a lot of stress on your shoulders. It's fine. But you were just like, idiot. You could have picked one of these.
I didn't call you an idiot.
You implied it. Well, anyway. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thelan, I will start with you. Thank you very much for joining me once again.
Thank you, Rich.
And
pleasure as always.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you very much for having me in your presence.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Until next time, we'll see you then.
Get sacked in the morning. Get sacked in the morning. You'll be gone without warning. All the best plays have gone out on loan. You get sacked in the morning. And the contract will be paid off in full. Sacked in the morning. And there's plenty more clubs out on the pool. Sacked in the morning. Take it to the corner flag. No more questions from the local rag or hiding from the angry wags.